Hello, it's Monday around 3 a.m. in California right now, and I just listened to an interview with the weirdest setup. Elon Musk interviewed the CEO of Robinhood, Vlad Tenev. In that interview, my theory that Vlad Tenev and Robinhood basically were pushed around in the market, mostly by Citadel in collusion with the DTC, was pretty much confirmed. Please listen up, and we'll discuss after that.
Yes? Vlad the Stock Impaler. Hey guys, thanks for inviting me up. It's good to hang with all of you. All right, Vlad. What really happened? Give us the inside scoop. All right. Well, I was actually hoping that you would invite me up for the Fermi paradox part because this has been a very surreal weekend and week for me. One of the really great things is all the people coming out of the woodwork to offer support for the company, offer advice. So I got introduced today, and actually I should say I just randomly downloaded Clubhouse a couple of days ago just to see what it was all about. So this is my first time literally using the app. But I got introduced to your friend Antonio, Elon, who had some good advice for me, and then introduced me to you. You had some great advice. And then I figured, I heard about this Clubhouse, and this has got to be part of the simulation. So I just thought, why not? So here I am. So I'm actually an adherent to the simulation hypothesis. All right.
This is basically Vlad kissing ass.
Well, spill the beans, man. What happened last week? Why do you stop people? Why couldn't people buy the Gamestop shares? The people demand an answer, and they want to know the details of the truth. Yep. Okay, so
What a good fucking question.
let me start by giving a little bit of background. So I'm the chief executive of Robinhood. Robinhood is actually just I'll go through this quickly. Don't worry. This is important. It's actually a couple of companies. So there's an introducing broker-dealer called Robinhood Financial, and that basically is the app that you know and love. It processes trades. You're a customer of Robinhood Financial. Then there's a clearing broker-dealer, Robinhood Securities, that clears and settles. And then we have Robinhood Crypto, which is our crypto business. All of these are kind of different entities that are differently operated. So basically Wednesday of last week, we just had, unprecedented volume, unprecedented load on the system. A lot of these, so-called meme stocks were, going viral on social media, and people were joining Robinhood, and there was a lot of net buy activity on them, as you guys all know. And Robinhood at this time, I think, was number one on the iOS App Store, and pretty close, if not number one, on Google Play as well. So so I'm sleeping, but at 3:30 a.m. Pacific, our operations team receives a file from the NSCC, which is the National Securities Clearing Corporation. So basically, as a clearing broker, and this is where Robinhood Securities comes in, we have to put up money to the NSCC based on some factors, including things like the volatility of the trading activity, concentration into certain securities, and this is the equities business, so it's based on stock trading and not options trading or anything else. So they gave us a file with a deposit, and the request was around $3 billion, which is, about an order of magnitude more than what it typically is, right? So, no, why was that so high? Like, this seems like it sounds like.
Look at the great interviewer that Elon Musk is. asking the right questions at the right time. If he had to interrupt the guy, he interrupted him, but just basically perfect questions.
This is an unprecedented increase in demand for capital. What formula did they use to calculate that? Well, yeah, and just to give context, Robinhood up until that point has raised, a little bit, around $2 billion in total venture capital.
That's the first excuse. He's basically saying Robinhood is a 2 billion company and they wanted 3 billion from us, which fits into my theory later on that I will describe, but just keep that in mind.
Up until now. So it's a big number, like $3 billion is a large number, right? So basically the details are, we don't have the full details. It's a little bit of an opaque formula, but there's a component called the VAR of it, which is value at risk. And that's...
There is a component called a VAR. This is what you say when you just found out what VAR is. If you knew what VAR was, you wouldn't be saying there is a component called VAR. You would be able to explain it much better than this.
Based on kind of some fairly quantitative things, although it's not fully transparent. So there are ways to reverse engineer it, but it's not kind of publicly shared. And then there's a special...
It's not kind of publicly shared. Dude, you're the CEO of the hottest brokerage in the last 2 years. How do you not know that? Or how do you not have people who know that? How do you not hire people who used to work for the company who's setting up the VAR? How the fuck do you not know that?
Component, which is discretionary. So that kind of acts as a multiplier. And basically... Discretionary meaning like it's just their opinion. Yeah, it's a little bit, I'm sure.
Just to let you know, my theory about Citadel and the DTC colluding fits perfectly with the issue that what Vlad is describing, that the reason for the increased demand for deposit is discretionary. When something is discretionary on Wall Street, it always is in the favor of the house. And in this case, Robinhood traders were outside the house. They were not playing for the house, they're playing against the house. And discretionary means let's fuck the Robinhood traders.
There's definitely more than just their opinion, but basically, well, I guess like it's based on growth. What everyone wants to know is like, did something maybe shady go down here? Like it's like seems weird that you'd get a sudden $10 billion demand. $3 billion more. Sorry, how much? Yeah. It was $3 billion US dollars. Okay, so it's $3 billion around. Just suddenly out of nowhere.
Yeah. How come when the hedge funds are not making money and they're actually about to go bankrupt, all of a sudden they want $3 billion? Is it possible that after the WallStreetBets guys run them over, they said, we know how to deal with them. They're all with small brokerages, so we'll just increase the demands on the small brokerages. So the only ones who can play with that share, GME, is gonna be us. Interesting.
What percent? I wouldn't impute shadiness to it or anything like that. And actually,
But of course you wouldn't impute shadiness because you're paid right now since last Wednesday to be quiet, vague. Because you're getting a golden parachute. Otherwise, you're not getting shit. You're not getting any money from the IPO or nothing. If you play ball, if you're as vague as possible, if you don't blame anybody, if you just say, we're too young, we didn't know, we didn't have enough money, they asked for too much money, we didn't know that, then you get to keep some of your shares when they fire you, in a month or two.
NSFW was reasonable subsequent to this, and, they've been... to actually lower it. So it was unprecedented activity. I don't have the full context about what was going on in the NSCC to make these calculations. But yeah.
How the fuck do you not know? How do you say that sentence? Like it's not all their fault. We don't know exactly what's going on there. How are you on Wall Street? You're a licensed broker and you're self-clearing house, and you don't know what's going on with the people who are clearing you. This is just amateur hour. I said on Twitter earlier that if you're with Robinhood and you haven't closed your account yet, you have a Stockholm syndrome. And this is the guy coming back for you right here in this interview.
Essentially,
is anyone holding you hostage right now?
No, I'm okay.
Another question, great question, and another vague answer, because when Elon Musk asks him, is somebody holding you hostage right now? He doesn't mean is somebody holding Vlad Tenev hostage. He means is somebody holding Robinhood hostage. And what does he say? No, I'm okay. Oh, you little cunt.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. But anyway, so this was obviously nerve-wracking, and I actually was asleep at this point. You know, the operations team was fielding this at 3:00, and then we got back. We put our heads together. Our chief operating officer basically said, "Look, let's call up the higher."
So here's what happened. Vlad didn't know what the fuck to do. He got panicked. So his COO, the chief operating officer, started running the company and told him, call those fuckers and ask and beg and plead so that they ask less money. And this is what he's admitting right now. Not in so many words, but that's basically what he's doing.
Ups at the NSCC and kind of figure out what's going on. Maybe there's some way we can work with them. And basically there was another call, and they lowered it to something like $1.4 billion from $3 billion. So, okay, we were making some progress, right? And then, but it's still a high number. And then we basically proposed, well, let's explain how we plan to, let's explain how, we'll manage risk in these symbols throughout the day. We proposed.
What that means is they were begging to get a discount, and the discount comes with strings attached. And the strings attached were, you don't let the small WallStreetBets guys buy GME, because if you do, we want $3 billion. But if you don't, we'll lower it. So keep begging the right way, and we'll let you off the hook.
Marking these volatile stocks that were kind of driving the activity, position closing only. And then at about an hour before market open, so 5:30 or 5 in the morning, they came back and they said, okay, the charge is, or the deposit, $700 million, which we then deposited and paid promptly, and then everything was fine.
So in his eyes, they begged and begged and begged and lowered it from $3 billion to $700 million with the promise of screwing over their customers. So they deposited $700 billion, and in his eyes, everything was fine. This is a company that's been in the public eye for so many years. They knew shit like that happens, and if they didn't know that shit like that happens, they knew in March that stuff like that happens when during the March sell-off. And between March and now, they didn't do shit. And WallStreetBets showed the hedge funds what they can do, and the hedge funds showed WallStreetBets what they can do. And what they can do is screw them over on a completely different level. And this is the level.
So that essentially explains why we had to mark these symbols position closing only, and also why we knew this was a bad outcome for customers. Part of what's been really difficult is Robinhood stands.
So wait, 30 seconds ago you said we deposited $700 billion and everything was fine, but after that you said, oh, we knew that was bad for customers. You didn't go and say that on CNBC. When they asked you specifically, was that a liquidity issue? You said no. So at 3:30 in the morning, they call you and tell you we need $3 billion, and you say no. The moment you say no, you have a liquidity issue. and then you go on CNBC and you say you don't have a liquidity issue, that's a lie. You're a fraud. You can be proven to be a fraud at this point because of public statements that are contradicting each other. And I believe the only saving grace that he will have is the same saving grace that Trevor Milton seems to have had from Nikola, because most of his outlandish fraudulent statements came before Nikola became a public company. Now, Robinhood is not a public company yet, but I can guarantee you one thing. Robinhood becomes a public company, maybe not. But Vlad Tenev is not going to be the CEO of that company when they do. Think of what happened with Uber CEO Travis Kalanick, how he got ousted. This is what's going to happen with Vlad Tenev. But the only difference is the hedge funds promise him, as long as you don't blame us, as long as you don't blame the DTC, we're going to take care of you. And now he's not blaming them. He's playing a fool. He's playing that they were ignorant. They may have been completely ignorant. They maybe didn't know what the game was. But the fact that he's not blaming how badly they got screwed, and he's saying, oh, everything was fine. We knew it was bad for customers, but everything was fine, shows me that he has been bought. He is basically purchased at this point. So get off your Stockholm syndrome and get off Robinhood. Let's keep listening.
For democratizing access to stocks, and
Yes.
we want to give people the access. So that's been very, very challenging. But we had no choice in this case. We had to conform to our regulatory capital requirements, and so the team did what they could to make sure we were available for customers.
Again, I just want to repeat this. This regulatory requirement, or the possibility of such a requirement, is not something that Robinhood should have found out on Wednesday. This is something that they should have known at the very latest in March last year. But in all honesty, they should have known the moment they started the app. And the fact that you want to become the most popular app in the world for trading, and your whole capitalization, your whole investment since you invented the app is $2 billion, and you go into a stock market that trades trillions on annual basis, it's just mind-boggling. And then on top of that, you went self-clearing, so you can save the fees that you pay to a clearinghouse. This is just a joke. People from Robinhood will more than likely have to go to prison. I don't know if the hedge funds are going to be able to save Vlad's ass, but people from Robinhood, the ones who would have been responsible for regulatory compliance, the ones who signed on certain documents, will more than likely be going to jail. Let's keep listening.
Who controls this organization, this clearinghouse?
Perfect question. It's a consortium. It's not quite a government agency. I don't really know the details of all of that.
So the people who can call you and tell you, give me $3 billion, otherwise you're out of the market, and you don't know the details, you're a fucking joke. You're just a fucking joke. Or the more likely scenario is you're told to not blame anybody, keep your mouth shut, to keep your golden parachute.
Okay.
But, and to be fair, I think there was legitimate sort of turmoil in the markets. Like, these are unprecedented events with these meme stocks, and there was a lot of activity. So there probably is some amount of extra risk in the system that warrants higher requirements. So it's not entirely unreasonable. But we did operational processes to make sure that customers that had positions could sell their open positions, because obviously restricting someone. We got a lot of questions about, okay, you had to restrict buying. Why didn't you also restrict selling? And the fact of the matter is, people get really pissed off if they're holding stock and they want to sell it and they can't, right? So I think that's categorically
No
worse.
shit, people get pissed off.
And lots of other brokers, I think, were in the same situation. Robinhood was in the news, but you sort of heard this industry-wide, right? Other brokers basically restricted the same exact activity.
All right, so it sounds like this organization, it calls you up and they basically have a gun to your head, either hand over this money or else. And so, because I mean,
That's exactly what it sounds like. Either give us 3 billion or we're gonna fuck you. And if you don't want to give us 3 billion, give us 700 million, but promise us that your customers cannot buy GameStop. And Vlad turned over, put his pants down, bent over and said, please take it easy.
basically what people are wondering is like, did you sell your clients down the river or did you have no choice? And if you had no choice, that's understandable. But then,
The problem whether he had a choice or not is not the choice that he had on Wednesday. Is the choice that he had a year ago to recapitalize the business, seeing the growth. That's the choice that he should have made, and he didn't. Yes, on Wednesday maybe he didn't have a choice. But that is only because he made a shit ton of bad choices before that. Mostly out of greediness, not to dilute his shares when they go public.
we got to find out why you had no choice. And who are these people that are saying you have no choice?
Yeah, I think that's fair. You know, we have to comply with these requirements. Financial institutions have requirements. You know, the formula behind these requirements, I think it would obviously be ideal if there was a little bit more transparency so we could plan better around that.
No shit, Knucklehead, it would be ideal. If Wall Street was transparent, hedge funds wouldn't be as profitable as they are. But you knew that when you got in the game. Your CEO knew that, so he told you call those fuckers up and ask them what they want. So not knowing after being 4 years in the business is not an excuse. It's an admission of stupidity.
But to be fair, we were able to open and serve our customers, and you know, 24 hours later, our team raised over $1 billion in capital, so that when we did open, when we do open.
Of course you raised $1 billion in capital. They told you, oh, you are such a good boy. Now keep being a good boy on Friday and on Monday and on Tuesday, and meanwhile, here's $1 billion for your trouble, because you saved us tens of billions.
And tomorrow morning, we'll be able to kind of relax the stringent position limits that we put on these securities on Friday.
Will there be any limits?
Well, I think there's always going to be some theoretical limit. Like, we don't have infinite capital.
Oh, there are always going to be some theoretical limits. Like, for example, it was announced today, well, at this point yesterday, that on Monday, Robinhood customers will only be able to buy 1 share of GameStop. That's a theoretical limit. Such a theoretical thing.
Right. And on Friday, there were limits. So there's always going to have to be some limit. I think the question is, you know, will the limits be high enough to the point where, you know, they won't impact, you know, 99.9+% of customers. So, you know, if someone were to deposit.
So on Wednesday, the GameStop share had more volume in trading than the SPY, which is the ETF for the S&P 500. And you're telling Elon Musk that it's not going to impact more than 99.9% of your customers. You're full of shit. Another lie. Just another lie.
$100 billion and decide to trade in one stock like that, that wouldn't be possible, you know?
All right.
All right. So Elon Musk laughs at the end because he knows the guy he's talking with is basically a goner. But what this interview confirmed was my theory. In my last video, I suggested that the CEO of Citadel, who has been convicted before for insider trading and banned from Wall Street for 2 years, colluded with the CEO of the DTC, which is the clearing company, the one that requested the $3 billion, with the full knowledge that smaller brokerages and clearinghouses do not have the funds to cover their demands. They use that as a negotiating tactic to make sure that customers cannot trade those WallStreetBets meme stocks. This is what happened. I'm 99% certain of it. So I'm asking you, if you know any influential people, further that theory to them. You don't have to give me views. You don't even have to give me credit. If somebody more influential comes up and takes over that theory and takes it as his own, that would be fine with me. I just want to make sure that we get a good investigation of the ex-Bear Stearns failure and a guy convicted for 2 years of insider trading, so we can get a deep investigation, hopefully put some people in jail. This is Nasco from The Great Reset. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you and have a great day.